Welcome to the Full Story series, where we take some of the older videos from here, right here at Comicstorian, and we combine them to give you like a longer epic, kind of remind you of where we started and how we've gotten to where we are in this channel, while giving you something really long to just put on and listen to. Today, thanks to Green Arrow coming out on the show again, if this comes out around that time period, we're going to be covering the Outsiders War, which is my favorite Green Arrow storyline from back in the New 52. Now, this video is not going to be that long, because it pretty much encompassed only like 3 trade paperbacks, which is basically between 10 to 15 issues generally, so it's around that time frame. But it is a cool like retconning to Green Arrow's origin that I personally really enjoyed. DC actually took notice and sent me the whole book, so that's really cool for me. Anyway guys, enjoy the video.
Oliver storms into the offices of Queen Industries, ignoring everyone, telling him that the CEO is busy. He doesn't care and he throws the doors open. Emerson, how can you let me find out that you lost my company on the morning news? Oliver, you don't understand. Sometimes a man doesn't know what he has until he's lost it all. Oh please, save your sentimental mumbo jumbo, Emerson. Don't pretend that this is all a part of some grand plan. Emerson stands up. Don't you understand, Oliver? Nothing that's happened to you has been an accident. Oliver pauses and he turns around. What's that supposed to mean? But at that moment, an arrow attaches to Emerson's back through the window, and then he's yanked out through the window, shattering it. The guards rush in as they hear the window shatter, and they see it open, and only Oliver standing there. This isn't what it looks like, he calls out as he raises his hands into the air. The guards walk over to handcuff Oliver, but he drops them both and he throws an arrow at the cameras, breaking them before making his escape. As he gets outside, he dials up his team. Jax, it's Ollie. I'm heading to the warehouse right now. Something's going on. Actually, Oliver, I'm at Q-Corps. I'm sorry, Ollie. He's making us do this. And then Ollie looks up as the Q-Corps building explodes in front of him. Oliver pops his hood up and he runs to the nearest safe house, avoiding all of the police and everyone after him. He can't believe that this is happening. What is going on? As he suits up and walks out of the building, though, another archer is standing there waiting for him. Hello, Oliver. So nice to finally meet you. And he launches an arrow straight at Oliver. Oliver flips out of the way and then he realizes that that was one of his trick arrows, the flash grenade arrow. Blinded, he asks, "Who are you?" "I'm Komodo, and I'm your death, little boy." He then fires a harpoon arrow from Oliver's trick arrows, throwing Oliver off balance. But as Oliver's eyes adjust, he finally sees Komodo is gone, and he chases him to the roof where they both fire an arrow at each other. Oliver's missed, but Komodo shot a glue arrow and has stuck Oliver in place, and as he walked over, he beat the snot out of Oliver. He then prepared to put an arrow through Oliver's head when a mysterious man without any eyes tackles Komodo. He then turns to Oliver. "I'm Magus, and you shouldn't be here. You were never supposed to leave the island, Oliver." Oliver gets away from Komodo and Magus, and then he finds himself wandering the streets of Seattle. He has no home, no money, no friends anymore. And when he called Steve Trevor of the Justice League of America, the group that he's in, they told him to fix this mess before they need to send in the big guns themselves. So he goes to a man that he fired from his company years ago, Fife, the only man that he can think of that has enough knowledge to help the Green Arrow go after Komodo. Meanwhile, it turns out Komodo is the owner of Stellmore, the company that purchased Queen Industries, and he didn't kill Jax and Naomi, Green Arrow's 2 helpers. But no one knows that they're alive any longer. Everyone assumes that they died in the Q-Corps explosion. So with his daughter Amiko by his side, he walks into the room that he's keeping them in to ask, "Where is the Green Arrow? He's off the grid." Jax looks at him in the eyes. "Go to hell!" So in front of Amiko, Komodo fires an arrow into Jax's head, killing him. He then turns his arrow to Naomi, but she tells him that she'll do it. She'll find Green Arrow for him. With Fife's help, Green Arrow sneaks back into Queen Industries, and he pokes around Emerson's office until he finds a secret passageway. Inside the secret room, his mind is blown because he discovers that Emerson had a secret life. But the more disturbing fact is that he finds a picture of his father, Emerson, and a mysterious man on an island. He also finds maps of the island, charts, and bow and arrows all over the place. As he turns to leave, he finds Magus standing there waiting for him. "Now that you've seen this room, you need to get out of Seattle. Might I suggest Black Mesa, Arizona?" "I'm not going anywhere. And what's in Black Mesa anyway?" "Answers maybe. It's not safe for you here. You can't beat Komodo. Yet." And at that moment, a police chopper hovers outside of the broken window, staring Oliver down. He shoots a grappling arrow across the way and he begins to slide away when somebody shoots his grappling line out. He then begins to tumble to the streets down below. As he falls, he begins to panic and he catches himself on a building under construction. But then standing over him is Komodo! Oliver thinks quick and he shoves an arrow through Komodo's foot, pulling him off of the building, and they both begin to fall to the streets again. But they end up landing on another floor of the construction area, landing in the construction garbage. And then when Green Arrow gets up out of the rubble, he gets kicked in the back by Komodo. They both draw an arrow and they fire at each other, and both arrows connect mid-flight. But Oliver, he pulled the wrong arrow. He pulled an explosive arrow by mistake, and the entire area explodes, throwing them both off of the building that they're on. Komodo walks over asking if his toys are broken, and then he fires arrows into the sky so that they fall into Oliver. You only need a target, Oliver. You know who told me that? Your father, right before I killed him. And with that, Komodo picks up Oliver. But at that exact moment, the police chopper arrives, distracting Komodo. So Oliver rolls backwards, and then he fires an arrow into Komodo's shoulder. Oliver runs over and he grabs Komodo, ready to remove his mask. But that's when another arrow goes into Oliver's back. He turns around to see Komodo's daughter, Amiko, standing there with a bow and arrow of her own. Oliver makes a break for it and he runs to the nearby garbage chute, which carries him down to the ground below, where Fife pulls up and picks him up. Safe once again, Oliver heads off into the night to get patched up. But the next morning, Fife wakes up Oliver to a news broadcast going on, which shows Naomi pinned to a graveyard angel in the arrow outfit. Komodo is calling out Oliver, and Oliver can't just let Naomi die. So he runs into the graveyard, finding her rather easily, and then he discovers that there's a bomb on her back, and at that moment, Komodo opens fire on him. He calls up Fife to save Naomi while he handles Komodo, and their archer duel continues. Using the rain to mask his movements, Oliver gets the drop on Komodo, knocking his arrows out of his hands, allowing the two men to just straight up brawl it out. But as Komodo knocks Oliver on the ground, he grabs an arrow out of the mud and he shoves it into Komodo's eye. Komodo rolls around on the ground and Oliver leaves him to get medical attention. Luckily, Fife managed to disarm the bomb and the trio leaves the cemetery. But Oliver tells his team as they leave, this isn't over. He has one more lead to follow up on, and he travels to Black Mesa, Arizona. As he enters the area, Magus's people knock Oliver unconscious, and then Magus drugs him so that he can see the truth of the island. Oliver sees where this all began. Robert Queen, Emerson, and the Mystery Man all walking around the island looking for the sacred arrow of the Arrow clan. Magus explains that these are the outsiders, and he was one of them centuries ago. 7 houses, 7 clans, all formed around totem weapons. The arrow, the spear, the fist, the shield, the sword, and the axe. And the 7th, long forgotten and lost. Robert Queen became aware of the clans as he stumbled across Oliver's great-grandfather's vault, as Oliver's great-grandfather was the head of the Arrow clan. Whoever holds the sacred weapons will supposedly know true enlightenment, and due to that, it was Robert, Emerson, and this man named Simon that went looking for the arrow. Simon runs the company that bought Queen Industries, and he is also Komodo. Magus then points Oliver to his next location, a small country named Latvia, for more answers. And he welcomes the head of the Axe clan to their fight, as he will side with the Arrow. So now Green Arrow has no money, no company, and no home, and he's gonna follow this mystery, but with the help of Naomi and Fife, Team Green Arrow. At the far-off small country of Latvia, a man in a red robe approaches the gates. As he gets closer, we see a green quiver on his back, and the guards tell him not to take one more step. Oh well, so much for the quiet approach. Let's try out these new arrows, Fife. The robe gets thrown into the air, revealing Green Arrow, and he grabs an arrow from the quiver and begins dropping the guards while running for some cover. Bullets begin to rain down in his direction as he sees more guards come running into his position, and he throws an explosive near them to disrupt them and throw them all off balance. He then runs up to the remaining guards and begins hitting them with his bow and kicking them in the teeth while firing more arrows at more approaching guards. In the end, he manages to drop every guard and then trap the rest in a net arrow, and then he sticks a map arrow into the wall, revealing the entire castle. And he eventually makes his way into the basement, where he finds a woman. He removes the bag on her head to see that the woman is in tears, and she leans over to kiss Oliver. "I knew you'd come for me." You see, Green Arrow is here because he discovered that his father was on the island long before he found himself stranded there all those years before. He was looking for an item called the Arrow Totem to gain enlightenment and allow him to rule something called the Arrow Clan. There are a total of 7 clans, and they have all brought their fight to Oliver, and all Oliver wants to know is how deep his father's mystery goes. Magus, a man that was once in the Outsiders clan, sent Oliver to this country to find something that he needs to continue his search. While taking some drugs to help him reach into visions that would allow him to see where he needs to go, he saw a dragon, and while he has no idea what he's actually looking for, he's looking for this dragon with his team, Team Green Arrow. But back with the woman that he found, she's wearing a robe that has a dragon on it. And looking at him in the darkness, she asks, "Robert?" "What? No, I'm not Robert. I'm Green Arrow. I'm here to rescue you." He then cuts her free and she realizes who he is. "You're him, aren't you? The boy Oliver. You can't hide it from me. You look just like my Robert." "You're Robert?" But at that moment, Green Arrow has a much more pressing matter to attend to. The master of this castle has arrived, Count Vertigo, and he's just started forcing the room to spin for Oliver and his mystery guest. "You've come to take my shadow, yes, American? Well, I can't allow that. She is mine. Shut up, I can't think. Oh, this is beautiful. Of all the superheroes running around today, I get the one who actually has to aim something." Then Count Vertigo touches Oliver on the forehead, making the vertigo even worse as the room begins to spin and his head feels like it's exploding internally. Fife and Naomi can hear what's going on and they can see it thanks to Oliver's comms, and Fife shouts for Oliver to throw his quiver at Count Vertigo. "What?" Oliver says, trying to understand. "Do it now, Oliver!" So Oliver grabs his whole quiver and he throws it towards Count Vertigo. Fife then hits a remote detonator on an EMP arrow that drops Count Vertigo and stops his mind-bending abilities from the contraption that is located in his forehead. Oliver and Shadow make a break for it while the Count is occupied, and as they're running off, Oliver asks her, "How do you know Robert? Who are you?" "I'm Shadow, and I have my own questions. How did you know I was alive, and how did you find me?" "A man named Magus tipped me off and said that I could find you here and that you could help me find a man named Komodo." "Komodo? Did you see him? Did he have a little girl with him?" "Yes, he did. She was dressed like you, actually." "You don't understand. Amiko is my daughter, but Komodo isn't her father." They both then pause in the snow as they're fleeing. "Oliver, Amiko's father is Robert Queen. She is your sister." Then, more of the guards show up. Back at the castle though, Count Vertigo is seeing his own personal doctor to get his implant fixed in a hurry. Oliver's EMP arrow blew out a bunch of circuits in the implant, but he refuses to let this American steal from him. He will stop this, and even as the doctor warns him that he won't be able to properly control the implant, Vertigo says, "I don't care," and he heads off. Meanwhile, Shadow and Oliver have dropped the guards that they were fighting, and they're currently ziplining as far from the area as they can get. And as they land, Shadow comments how at first she thought that he was silly with his foldable bow and trick arrows. While it's not real archery, it is interesting. "Not real archery? I saved you from that maniac and you patronize me? My father loved my mother, and there is no way that he was with someone like you." "Like what, Oliver? A whore like me? Yes, your father loved your mother, but we had something special." And so, Shadow explained. She met Robert Queen in Tokyo on one of his business trips, and Shadow, she was a hired assassin that was there to kill their contact. But Robert and Simon found her and were ready to drop her with their arrows. So she ran, and catching her was a different story with their little compound bows. But the truth is, it was them that hired her to kill their contact. They wanted to test her. Robert wanted to be the best archer in the world and was therefore looking for the best archer to learn from. Over time, she learned that Robert was looking for something called the Green Arrow, an arrow totem weapon of legend, and together, they found out about the Outsiders. The fist, the axe, the spear, the shield, the sword, and the arrow, the totem weapon clans. The clans were once strong, but over time they split up, and it was in this weakened state that they seduced Simon and they took him into their fold. During those adventures, Shadow and Robert fell in love and they had a child. And it was Simon who killed Robert to join the Outsiders as the head of the Arrow clan and to become Komodo. But Komodo never counted on Oliver, and that's the twist to this tale. Shadow is being held captive because they couldn't kill her. She's the only person who knows the true resting location of the Green Arrow, the thing keeping Komodo from becoming the rightful leader of the Arrow clan. And just as she finished telling her story, Vertigo showed up and he threw Oliver off his balance. Oliver fired an arrow at Count Vertigo just as Vertigo shot a pulse in him, and the arrow took off Vertigo's ear, but the pulse clipped Oliver's ear, rupturing his eardrum. Then Shadow took Oliver's bow and she killed everyone but Vertigo. "You aren't taking me back to that damn dungeon." Then, Oliver and Shadow left to get back to Team Arrow, to go on the next leg of this journey, the resting place of the Green Arrow, the totem weapon of legend. It's time for them to return to the island. The very island that Oliver was stranded on and became the superhero known as the Green Arrow. With their objective in mind, Oliver and Shadow land their helicopter on the island, and they begin to move to the location that she knows that it should be kept at. As they land, Oliver asks her where they're going. He knows this entire island. There isn't a single secret spot that he doesn't know about, and Shadow continues to lead him. Meanwhile, Magus and the leader of the Axe clan discuss what's about to happen. The Outsider clans will rise, and they will fight against Oliver once he gets the Green Arrow. The Outsiders' war is coming. Shadow takes Oliver to a normal-looking cliff face, and she asks him for an explosive arrow. She then takes aim and destroys the cliff face, revealing stairs deep into a cave. Oliver is in shock. Where does this go? How did he miss this? He was living on this island. As they enter the main cavern, Shadow welcomes Oliver to the resting place of the Arrow clan, the home of the totem weapon. But the Outsiders have been following Shadow ever since Oliver rescued her from Count Vertigo, and they are on their way right now to the island to kill both Oliver and Shadow. Back in the tomb, Oliver approaches the pedestal, and he sees that the Green Arrow, the totem weapon, the weapon of the Arrow clan, is gone. It's missing. Shadow looks at him. You really haven't figured it out yet, have you? What are you talking about, Shadow? Don't tell me that you just accepted the coincidence that you ended up stranded on the same island that your father marked as the home of the Arrow clan? What are you talking about? Their conversation is interrupted by the sound of banging drums and approaching enemies. But when they turn around, Oliver sees that it isn't drums that they're banging on. It's the Shield clan approaching with their war cry. Meanwhile, in Japantown, San Francisco, Magus approaches a silent warrior to ask if Tatsu would join him. But when she takes her blade to his throat, he corrects his statement. Do you prefer katana? He explains that everything she has been looking for is connected. The Sword Clan, the Coil, the Mona Shard. It's all a part of the Outsiders. Back with Oliver, he and Shadow begin throwing as many arrows as they can, but this is the Shield Clan, and they take them all with their shields. They then throw their shields back, hitting Oliver in the face. Shadow turns to Oliver. They're too fast with those shields. Our arrows are useless. That's what I've been telling you, Shadow. You need some trick arrows. And Oliver jumps up, doing a flip, throwing an explosive arrow into the Shield Clan. I am never making fun of those again, she says, as he throws some to her. Using net arrows, explosive arrows, and green fire arrows, they make their way out of the cave, but they find themselves being stopped by the Shield Clan's leader, Kodiak, as he jumps on them at the exit. Shield's stronger than bow, little man. You damned clamheads talk too much, Oliver says, firing another arrow at Kodiak. But Shadow grabs Oliver and they both run into the forest trying to make their escape. Luckily, this is the island that Oliver made his home all of those years ago, so he knows exactly where to go, and he brings her to a little hut. As they get closer, Shadow stops Oliver. It's time for you to admit it, Oliver. No more jokes. None of this was an accident. You were put on this island. Why do you think those men tortured you for weeks, yet never killed you? You were never being tortured. You were being tested, and you were never being hunted. You were being trained. And you know who did this to you. No! Oliver shouts, still refusing to admit it, and that's when he hears a voice behind him. I'm sorry, Oliver. I had no choice. After I died, I had to bring you here to keep you safe from Komodo to prepare you for war. Oliver turns around to find his father standing there. Robert Queen is alive. Oliver throws him into a tree. This is a lie! My father's dead! Who are you? Your first battle scar was a raspberry. What? You fell off your bike I bought you, and you called the mark a battle scar. Oliver lets his father go. No, this can't be. Everything that happened on the island was his own father training him for this battle, this war with the Outsiders. And it was even his father that let him go in the end for a final battle on the shoreline. Oliver almost killed his father that day, but Magus brought him back while Oliver went home to become the Green Arrow. Robert Queen presents the arrow to Oliver. It's time for us to reclaim our birthright, Oliver. To reclaim the Outsiders. It's just an arrow! You left me! You left Mom for this? You aren't my father! You're a madman! But before they can continue their argument, Kodiak, the leader of the Shield Clan, has arrived. Robert, Shadow, and Ollie all jump in and begin to battle it out with the beast of a man, and with him distracted, Robert Queen lands an arrow into his gut, incapacitating him. Then Oliver walks over, grabs the shield, and knocks his own father out. Go to hell, Shadow, and take him with you. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the Outsiders, the head of the Spear Clan begins his speech about preparing for Oliver and the Arrow Clan. But Komodo makes his move, and he sides with the Fist Clan, and they break the head of the Spear Clan's spear, and Komodo takes control of the Fist and the Spear Clans. He then tells his newest followers that it's time to prepare for war with the Arrow, the Axe, and the Sword clans. The whole time, Amiko is watching from the shadows at the man that she thinks is her father, when in fact, she's actually Oliver's half-sister and Shadow's daughter. No time is wasted though, as Oliver moves right for the Outsiders' headquarters and he begins his attack by launching his Thunderclap arrow, dropping a bunch of the guards. He then jumps in, kicking one of the villains in the head and firing an arrow into the barrel of a pistol. He then immediately realizes his mistake. These aren't random thugs. The spear has been watching him the whole time. Oliver looks up and he fires an umbrella arrow into the sky, and green fire begins to rain down on the Spear Clan, giving him the distraction that he needs to grab one of the members of the clan. Where is Komodo? But then another member of the clan chucks a spear into the man that Oliver is holding, and he flees. Well, crap, Oliver thinks, so he looks at what they were shipping and he discovers sarin gas canisters. I need to find their cathedral, he thinks to himself as he looks over all of Prague. Once again, it doesn't take him long to find them, and he breaks in through the roof, only to find a couple of Spear Clan members waiting for him. They grab him and they put him to the ground, and the head of the Fist Clan walks over and cracks him across the jaw. And then Komodo arrives with Amiko. He tells her to kill Oliver. Do it now! And she walks over to Oliver and demands to know the location of her mother. He tries to tell her that this is all a lie. She isn't supposed to be with Komodo. But she won't listen. It's all a lie, she says. She doesn't know what to trust. With tears in her eyes, running down her face, she draws an arrow from her quiver, and she begins to pull it back so she can fire it at Oliver's head. But she can't do it. She can't take his life. I guess you haven't completely ruined her yet, Komodo, Oliver says with a smirk. So Komodo steps forward and puts an arrow through Oliver's forehead, killing him. That's not the end of our story, though. Oh, it can't end there. Robert, Shadow, and Oliver come crashing through the nearby window. Komodo looks up in shock as the two people that he thought he killed are right here in front of him. And the Oliver on the ground stands up and pulls the arrow out of his own head. He then begins to shift his appearance into Magus the Mysterious Man, the one that started Oliver on this entire journey. He looks at Oliver. The seventh weapon is here by your side, Oliver. The mask has returned. Then the axe and the sword arrive, and war has begun. Mask, axe, sword, and arrow versus spear, shield, and fist. Everyone starts fighting with weapons and fists flying all over the place, teeth, blood, and spit being thrown about. And then Komodo makes a run for it, taking Amiko with him. Magus looks to Oliver and Katana. Oliver, get the girl back, and Katana, kill Onyx, the leader of the Fist Clan. On the rooftop, Komodo and Amiko see Shadow, and she demands that Komodo give back her daughter. Komodo and Amiko turn around to see her, and both are surprised that she's there. Both Komodo and Shadow draw arrows and fire at each other, with Komodo dodging Shadow's barely, but Komodo's landing in Shadow's shoulder. Meanwhile, Oliver gets out of the building and he follows his father, Robert Queen, to the location. This way, Oliver. All of this concern over your child is really heartwarming, Dad. What's next? Maybe you could torture her if you get her back? Robert turns around and he grabs Oliver, punching him across the jaw. Enough, Oliver. What's done is done, and it turns you into the hero that you are today. You really are delusional, aren't you, Dad? The island didn't make me what I am. It was Mom. She showed me true courage. She faced death with dignity and grace. I saw it in her eyes. I saw the love for this world, love for me, and her desire to make things better. And where were you? Where were you when your wife died of cancer? Off playing secret agent on an island. Tell me, Dad, which one of us really needed to grow up? Oliver, when I held the arrow, I saw our futures. I saw it all. I saw what I had to do. Save it, Dad. I don't believe in some damned enchanted arrow of enlightenment. She taught me love, and you taught me hate. To truly hate you. That's when both Robert and Oliver hear Shadow getting struck by the arrow in the shoulder, and they run to her side. They find Komodo with an arrow ready to fly into Shadow, but Amiko's standing between them. Please don't kill her, Dad. Oliver gets his arrow ready, and Komodo asks, can you take me before I fire at her, boy? Amiko continues to beg her father, stop this, please! And he tells her, he'll kill her if he has to, just to keep her away from them. So Oliver lets his arrow fly, and Komodo lets his fly, and Robert runs to Amiko. He leaps between her and the arrow, taking the arrow directly into his back. He then hits the ground, and Oliver runs to his side as Komodo begins to run off. Don't let that bastard get away, Oliver. I'm not leaving you, Dad. We need Green Arrow now, Ollie. We need the hero. I'm so proud of you. I'm sorry, Ollie. Sorry for everything. And then, Robert passes away in his arms. Oliver grabs the totem weapon, ready to end this. And that's when he sees everything. The enlightenment that everyone told him about. The past, the present, the future. It's all laid out before him. And he ignores it so that he can go after Komodo. Meanwhile, Katana has been chasing down Onyx. She has her own personal mission to complete. And she jumps onto a boat pulling away. And in the pouring rain, she gets ready to face off with the fist. While Oliver chases Komodo in the same rain to the nearby town. Komodo begins their battle by firing an arrow at Oliver, cutting the bowstring on his bow. Oliver drops the totem weapon on the ground as Komodo lands in front of him, and distracted by the weapon, Komodo runs for it. The arrow, finally! He takes it into his hands, and then he sees the past, the present, and the future. Me, what have I done? He exclaims, and then Oliver kicks him in the mouth, breaking his mask off of his face. He reels on the ground, telling Oliver he saw it all. It's over. And then, an arrow goes through his chest. Amiko fired it, killing the man that she thought was her father. Over on the boat, Katana and Onyx are going at it, but it doesn't take Katana any effort as she pins Onyx's foot on the ground and she cuts off her arm, separating her from her totem weapon. Onyx then turns to Katana, begging for mercy. Sword beat fist, and Katana calls up Magus, telling him that it's done. Everyone convenes. The job is done. They've won. They've defeated the outsider clans. And Magus turns to Oliver and he tells him that Oliver will need to lead the outsiders now. He is the Arrow clan leader. And Oliver breaks the totem arrow in half. He's done with all of this nonsense. He's done with Magus, his father, Shadow, all of them. I'm gonna put this behind me. Amiko, I can't force you to leave these maniacs, but you've been lied to as well. Even more than me, the outsiders have ruined your life. No matter what, you are my sister, and I'll take you with me if you want. She looks to her mother and then she tells Oliver that this is all she knows. So he leaves. And he tells everyone that he's done and he walks away. It's time to go back to Seattle, to his friends, to his team, and everything that he's built, or did build so that he can rebuild it again. And it's a good thing, because his friends are going to need his help with all of these villains that are forming up in Seattle.
Thank you for enjoying this shorter, but still a full story, guys, in which it's basically one of my favorite Green Arrow storylines of the recent years. Now, like, I wasn't lying. DC actually sent me the book, and look at the size of this book. It's awesome. It's the deluxe edition. I love the art in this storyline. I love the storyline itself. For me, it gave Green Arrow a lot of history that I didn't know existed, and I felt like it gave him more of a purpose. Sadly, they've kind of written out most of this, although they did keep Amiko, his sister, along for the ride, and Shadow does pop up occasionally and things like that. But overall, I really did enjoy this storyline. So let me think. Let me think. Let me know what you think down below. What about the Outsiders War? I can talk. Talking's good. It's like it's my job or something. Anyway, guys, don't forget you can follow me over on Twitter at Comicstorian, on Instagram at Comicstorian, and you can find us right here every day with more comic book, TV show, and video game knowledge bombed into your brain. Just imagine like a brain bomb, like your Suicide Squad. If you don't learn this, I will blow up your head. Leaving you on that thought.